Very true, Rick thought as he opened the gate to his little pasture and approached his electric sheep. But I can't emigrate, he said to himself, because of my job. The owner of the adjoining pasture, his knapp neighbor Bill Barber, hailed him. He, like Rick, had dressed for work, but had stopped off on the way to check his animal too. My horse, Barber declared beamingly, is pregnant. He indicated the big Percheron, which stood staring off in the empty fashion into space. What do you say to that? I say pretty soon you'll have two horses, Rick said. He'd reached his sheep now, and it lay ruminating, its alert eyes fixed on him in case he brought any rolled oats with him. The alleged sheep contained an oat tropic circuit. At the sight of such cereals, it would scramble up convincingly and amble over. What's she pregnant by? He asked Barber. The wind? I bought some of the highest quality fertilizing plasma available in California, Barber informed him. Through inside contacts I have with State Animal Husbandry Board. Don't you remember last week when their inspector was out here examining Judy? They're eager to have her full. She's an unmatched superior. Barber thumped his horse fondly on the neck, and she inclined her head toward him. Ever thought of selling your horse? Rick asked. He wished to God he had a horse, in fact any animal. Owning and maintaining a fraud had a way of gradually demoralizing one, and yet from a social standpoint it had to be done. Given the absence of the real article, he had therefore no choice except to continue. Even were he not to care himself, there remained his wife, and Iran did care very much. Barber said, it would be immoral to sell my horse. Sell the colt, then. Having two animals more immoral than not having any. Puzzled, Barber said, how do you mean? A lot of people have two animals, even three, four, like in the case of Fred Washburn who owns the algae processing plant. My brother works at even five. Didn't you see the article about his duck in yesterday's Chronicle? It's supposed to be the heaviest, largest Muscovy on the west coast. The man's eyes glazed over. Imagining such possessions, he drifted by degrees into a trance. Exploring about in his coat pockets, Rick found his creased, much-studied copy of Sydney's Animal in Full catalog supplement. He looked in the index and found colts, Vide horse's offspring, and presently had the prevailing national price. I can buy a Persian colt from the Sydneys for $5,000, he said aloud. No, you can't, Barber said. Look at the listing again. It's in italics. That means they don't have any in stock. But that would be the price if they did have. Suppose, Rick said, I pay you $500 a month for 10 months. Full catalog value. Piddlingly, Barber said, Deckard, you don't understand about horses. There's a reason why Sydney doesn't have any Persian colts in stock. Persian colts just don't change hands at catalog value. Even then, they're too scarce, and even relatively inferior ones. He leaned across their common fence, gesticulating. I've had Judy for 3 years, and not in all time have I seen a Persian mare of her quality to acquire her. I had to fly to Canada, and I personally drove her back here myself to make sure she wasn't stolen. You bring an animal like this anywhere around Colorado or Wyoming, and they'll knock you off just to get a hold of it. You know why? Because back before WWT, there existed literally hundreds. But Rick interrupted, for you to have two horses and me none. That violates the whole basic theological and moral structure of Mercerism. You have your sheep. Hell, you can follow the ascent in your individual life when you grasp the two handles of empathy you approach honorably. Now, if you didn't have that old sheep there, I'd see some logic in your position. Sure, if I had two animals and you didn't have any, I'd be helping deprive you of true fusion with Mercer. But every family in this building, let's see, around 51 to every 3 apartments as I compute it, every one of us has an animal of some sort. Graveson has a chicken over there. He just to north. Oakes and his wife have that big red dog that barks in the night. He pondered. I think Ed Smith has a cat down in his apartment. At least he says so. But no one's ever seen it. Possibly he's just pretending. Going over to his sheep, Rick bent down, searching in the thick white wool. The fleece at least was genuine until he found that he was looking for the concealed control panel of the mechanism. As Barber watched, he snapped open the panel covering, revealing it. See, he said to Barber, you understand now why I want your colt so badly? After an interval, Barber said, you poor guy, has it always been this way? No, Rick said, once again closing the panel covering of his electric sheep. He straightened up and turned and faced his neighbor. I had a real sheep. Originally, my wife's father gave it to us outright when he emigrated. Then about a year ago, remember that time I took it to the vet? You were up here that morning when it came out and found it lying on its side and couldn't get up. You got its 2 feet, Barber said, remembering and nodding. Yeah, you managed to lift up, and then in a minute or two, it fell over again. Rick said, sheep get strange diseases, or put another way, sheep get a lot of diseases, but the symptoms are always the same. The sheep can't get up. And there's no way to tell how serious it is, whether it's a sprained leg, or the animal's dying of tetanus. That's what mine died of, tetanus. Up here, Barbara said, on the roof? The hay, Rick explained. That one time I didn't get all the wire off the bale, I left a piece, and Groucho, that's what I called him, got a scratch, and in that way contracted tetanus. I took him to the vet and he died, and I thought about it and finally called one of these shops that manufacture artificial animals. I showed them a photograph of Groucho. They made this. He indicated the reclining ersatz animal, which continued to ruminate attentively, still watching alertly for any indication of oats. It's a premium job, and I put as much time and attention to caring for it as I did when it was real, but he shrugged. It's not the same. Barbara finished, but almost. You feel the same doing it. You have to keep your eye on it exactly as you did when it was really alive, because they break down, and when everyone in the building knows. I've had at the repair shop 6 times, mostly little malfunctions, but if anyone saw them, for instance, every time the voice tape broke or somehow got fouled, it wouldn't stop banging, they recognize it as a mechanical breakdown, he added. The repair outfit's trucks is of course marked animal hospital something, and the driver dresses like a vet, completely in white. He glanced suddenly at his watch, remembering the time. I have to get to work, he said to Barbara. I'll see you this evening, as he started towards his car. Barbara crawled after him hurriedly. I won't say anything to anybody here in the building. Pausing, Rick started to say thanks, but then something of despair that Iran had been talking about tapped him on the shoulder, said, I don't know, maybe it doesn't make any difference. But they'll look down on you. Not all of them, but some, how people are about not taking care of an animal. They consider him moral and anti-empathic. I mean, technically it's not a crime like it was right after WWT, but the feeling's still there. God, Rick said futilely and gestured empty-handed. I want to have an animal. I keep trying to buy one. But on my salary and what a city employee makes, as if he thought I could get lucky in my work again, as I did 2 years ago, when I managed to bag 4 Andes during 1 month. If I had known then, he thought, that Groucho was going to die, but that had been before the tetanus, before the 2-inch piece of broken hydropernic-like baling wire. He could buy a cat, Barbara offered. Cats are cheap. Look in your Sydney's catalog. Rick said quietly, I don't want a domestic pet. I want what I originally had, or a large animal, a sheep, or if I can get the money, a cow, or a steer, or what you have, a horse. The bounty from retiring fine dandies would do it, he realized. $1,000 apiece over and above my salary, and then somewhere I could find from someone that I want. Even the listing City's animal fowl is in the italics, $5,000, but he thought the 5 dandies first have to make their way to Earth from one of the colony planets. I can't control that. I can't make 5 of them come here. Even if I could, there are other bounty hunters with other police agencies throughout the world. The Andes would specifically have to take up residence in Northern California, and the senior bounty hunter of this area, Dave Holden, would have to die or retire. Buy a cricket, Barbara suggested wittily, or a mouse. Hey, for $25 you can buy a full-grown mouse. Rick said your horse could die, like Groucho died, without warning. When you get home from work this evening, you could find her laid on her back, her feet in the air like a bug, like what you said, a cricket. He stirred off, car key in hand. Sorry if I offended, Barbara said nervously. In silence, Rick Deckard plucked open the door of his hover car. He had nothing further to say to his neighbor. His mind was on his work and on the day ahead.